Hi, everyone. Thank you for being here. Let's start with a simple question. What does it mean to serve everybody? In government, we talk a lot about serving the public, but for a long time, the way we communicated online wasn't really built with everyone in mind. So today, I want to walk you through how that's changed and how accessibility, content, and user-first thinking have reshaped how we serve the public online. This talk is meant to give you some context for what you've been hearing this morning. Today's discussions aren't new, and if any of you have been to GovTalks before, many of these themes are familiar to you. You're going to hear more after lunch as we keep promoting Mary's talk about specific actions that we need to take to make our websites more accessible and to comply with the new federal rules that go into effect next year. But I want to take a few minutes here to put these efforts into the larger context of digital services, the digital services movement in government. Will Alford, the Director of Content and Digital Services. My team works on Georgia.gov and supports the rest of digital services and the GTA product teams to help make your websites better. So, today, I know I'm the only thing between you and lunch, so I'm not going to take too long with this, but we'll go over a brief history of digital services in government and how this movement to improve government services came about. We'll talk about what a user-first design culture is and how that supports this ideal of accessibility for all, no matter one's ability or situation. And then from a content standpoint, one of the ways we can improve accessibility for folks is to make sure we're keeping it simple. Less text that does more. And then finally, evolving our approach to content and management. I'll talk about how content is consumed and how in this new age of AI, as website managers, we need to be vigilant as ever with using structured content types, making sure your content is up to date and visible to your human users, but also to search engines and AI crawlers that are consuming your website. So first of all, maybe y'all knew this already, but I feel like I'm kind of still new in government. When I started at GTA a little over 5 years ago, I was just learning about this movement among designers and developers and writers to improve government performance by improving the technology and digital experience of constituents. So go back a little bit here. I came from newspaper journalism and was part of the digital transformation in that industry. And we always worked under the conceit that we were doing something larger than ourselves. And that was very motivational and inspiring. So I carried that sense with me when I joined Nikhil and his team here. Georgia was and still is ahead of most state governments in this digital transition. And we're very proud of that, in case you can't tell. We bring it up a lot. But let's rewind 15, 20 years ago. Government websites were pretty basic. Mostly static pages, lots of PDFs, big surprise, not much else. If you wanted to apply for a license, check your benefits, or find a form, you were probably met with a wall of text or a big 14-page download. Not very helpful. In Georgia, as we said, is a little bit, better than most probably. But we loved our flash graphics. Flipbook style carousels of images were very popular. We didn't think a whole lot about the color contrast and things like that. So accessibility was not really at the forefront of people's minds. But around 2014, something started to shift. Does anybody remember what might have happened around that time? Well, in 2013, the federal government launched healthcare.gov, and it crashed within an hour. One of Obamacare's most lasting effects, certainly for those of us in this discussion, may not even be healthcare related. The launch of healthcare.gov, the website, was a disaster. And in the wake of that, the Obama administration pushed for reforms for how the federal government manages technology projects. And those reforms led to the creation of new offices like 18F and the U.S. Digital Service, which developed a digital playbook that we all follow today, whether consciously or not. So here's a few of the milestones on the journey that's led us here today. So much work has been done in this area to make Georgia government accessible, and that's the good news. We're not scrambling like some states are to comply with these new rules. Georgia already required our digital properties to meet high accessibility standards. So really, the biggest new thing we're talking about today is our documents. We love our PDFs. All government loves PDFs. And that's really the one area that maybe hasn't been covered as strictly as this new rule mandates. And so we'll talk more about that this afternoon. But if there's one takeaway we want you to hear today, is that we need to address those documents. And so I see you, Catherine, at DOR, and we appreciate you bringing this issue to us, and we hear you, and we're here to support you on that. So over the course of this timeline, a huge shift was taking place online. The private sector led the way on this, but government was quick to see a huge opportunity to serve people better. Websites went from publishing information to delivering services. Our websites are now more than bulletin boards full of static information. Now they're where we actually transact, where our constituents are most likely to interact with us, not in person, not in our offices over the phone or via fax. Just like in the private sector, our customers expect to be able to take care of their business with us online. And at the heart of our work are these ideas, borrowed from the private sector, but tailored for government. Agile thinking. As Jasmine discussed, the roadmap for GovHub, you can see that we focus on a minimum viable product and we iterate constantly instead of the waterfall approach where you have to know everything up front and work toward a big ta-da moment. Our work is never finished. There's always something exciting around the corner. Every 2 weeks, we release an update, sometimes major, sometimes minor bug fixes. But the point is we're always working on making the platform more secure, easier to use, and aligned with the latest technology. Another thing that was new for IT groups, at least, is this idea of working together in cross-functional teams. Our group consists of designers, developers, product managers, and content, and we all work together toward a holistic vision. Then what really set digital services apart was the focus on user-centered design. Of course, it seems like common sense now, but remember when we would have these workshops and talk about design thinking, creating personas, trying to put ourselves in the shoes of our users, getting out of this mindset that we're the authority and we're going to tell the public what they need to know, what we want them to know. Organizing your website to match your agency's org chart. That may work fine, but that's not user-first thinking. So instead, we began listening to what our users wanted from us, and as Julie Fay just mentioned, at times observing how users behave. And this was a big change in how government thought of itself and its approach to service. So I just want to belabor this point for just a minute. It's user-first culture that is leading us to make everything more accessible. What does user-first really mean? It means we don't assume we know what people need. We ask, we observe, and we test. It means we write and design with empathy, and we challenge our own assumptions. This is especially important in government because the people using our services often have the least margin for error. They may be navigating a crisis, a disability, a language barrier, or just limited access to technology. Accessibility isn't an add-on, it's the foundation. Whether it's someone using a screen reader or reading in Spanish or accessing your site on a slow phone connection, they all deserve an experience that works. And when we design for those at the margins, everyone benefits. In this next section, I want to touch on how content itself is the service. When Amanda was talking earlier about how to make sense of your website analytics, I kept thinking that when it comes to our websites, content actually is the service we're providing. When someone says, how do I renew my SNAP benefits? They're not asking for a policy brief. They're trying to solve a problem. If your content is full of jargon, buried in legalese, or requires several attempts to click through to find the right information, you've lost them. My favorite Julie fact is, I forget how she phrases this exactly, but if a user clicks correctly the first time, they're 3 times more likely to successfully find what they're looking for than if they get that first click wrong. 2 to 3 times, yes. So, and when users consistently click on the wrong thing, they're telling us something we may not want to hear. But that's an us problem, not a user problem. Sometimes they have too much to choose from, and the path isn't clear. Less text that does more isn't about dumbing things down, it's about clarity. It's about getting out of the way so people can take action. Now, Amanda mentioned we've gotten support desk questions related to Site Improve. They have something called low content word count that you can sometimes get dinged for. And so you're like probably thinking, how can you say use less text? I'm going to get dinged on Site Improve. Well, if you're making your users click through to see hardly any text, maybe consider consolidating all these little small text blocks onto a single page. As Amanda said earlier, don't make your users work so hard to find that information. And it's not just about readability, it's about usability. Clear calls to action, limit your users' choices so they're not confused about which path to take. Don't overwhelm users with details at the top. Give them information as they need it. Let it unfold in a logical flow. Use words that reflect real-life needs, beginning with the action they can expect to take. Register to vote, renew your license, file your taxes, look up a permit, change your address, check your eligibility. These action verbs. And behind the scenes, that means content needs the right support too. Governance, training, and tools. We can't expect good content from people who aren't empowered to create it. Our approach to managing content has to evolve too. So instead of treating websites like digital filing cabinets, we have to think in terms of living systems that require constant care and feeding. Content has a life cycle. It needs regular reviews, structured formats, and workflows that make collaboration easy. Making the GAP dashboard part of your normal routine, looking at it holistically, as Amanda said, for the story it's telling you about your users' interactions, can help you prioritize where to spend your time and energy. And then let's not forget about the importance of non-technical editors, the folks closest to the information, the ones we call SMEs. Instead of siloing the website people off to the side, we like to see it when different groups of people within the agency manage the content that pertains to their area of expertise. Your content managers are the maestro of all this, giving them the right tools, plain language guides, accessibility checkers, smart governance, and workflow models. And finally, all of this work is for nothing if your content isn't findable and readable. So make sure it's structured, which will allow search engines and the bots to know what it is. This is how we build a more responsive, more inclusive system. Content needs to flow everywhere, not just desktop websites. Think mobile, voice assistants. How does AI know what it's seeing and how to interpret it if it's not set up clearly? So much is relying on us doing this right. The future of government services is omnichannel. We need content that's structured, searchable, and accessible by design. So lastly, I'm going to bring this a little closer to home. This is the Chattahoochee River we all know and love, and it's today's metaphor for how to think about your content. Content flows like a river. We've been thinking of content like blocks that we stack up. We scoot it over here, plop it over there. We try to line it up so it looks really neat and tidy in our desktop browser. But guess what? Most of your users are not seeing your content like you do on the desktop screen. Most are probably seeing it on their mobile phones. Most websites today, including GovHub, are responsive and reorient these blocks of content to stack nicely on your mobile phone. So already the efforts to line things up horizontally on your desktop screen were for nothing. Let it flow. Increasingly, our content is not even consumed on our own websites. When you need an answer to a question, how many of you type in the URL of your agency website, go to the top navigation, click through to the menu, scroll down? No. Or do you just ask this question in Google and have the AI overview give you the answer? Where is the AI getting that information? From your website. You are the ultimate authoritative source, and your content increasingly is not even being seen on your websites, but on these other interfaces. So that's why it's more important than ever that your content is contained within the structures that Google and other search engines and AI tools recognize. The robots have to be able to know what they're looking at. Your content needs to be accessible not only to screen readers and assistive devices, but also for crawlers that feed information into other systems. And when you address content accessibility, you kill two birds with one stone, or maybe three or four. You deliver your services to everyone, no matter how they read your content online. Your content is clear and accurate when it's presented on other platforms by AI tools or other services. This has always been key to success, the key to success with SEO, and I see AI as an extension of how we've designed sites for SEO. And then also, you're in compliance with the new law that requires all government content to be accessible to everyone. So to recap, yes, digital services is like a whole thing. Content is key, but less is more. Accessible digital services aren't just nice to have, they're how we show that government works for everyone. Because if it's not accessible, it's not usable. And if it's not usable, it's not much of a public service, which is the whole point of us being here. So we have the tools, we have the data, and we have the responsibility. So let's keep pushing for better, and let's create content so that every person, no matter their ability, language, or circumstance, can access the services they need with dignity and ease. So thank you.